But now, yeah, I'm thinking I'm back. So you can either hand over your son, or you can die screaming alongside him!
John Wick unveiled. Secret societies, sacred codes, and the esoteric path of the assassin. The silent assassin and the secret society. Have you ever asked yourself, what is John Wick really about? Is it just an ultra-stylized action film? Or is it something deeper, a modern myth masked in gunfire and bloodshed? Today on Positive Vortex, we dive into the hidden world of John Wick, uncovering the occult symbols, secret society codes, and sacred allegories embedded within the franchise. This isn't just a film, it's an initiation. A journey of grief, honor, and karmic retribution. This long-form breakdown spans John Wick, chapters 1 to 4, revealing how these films channel esoteric wisdom, sacred architecture, and ancient archetypes in one of the most mysterious cinematic universes ever created. Chapter 1. The Mythic Fall, John Wick's Descent into the Underworld. Plot overview: John Wick is a retired hitman, mourning the death of his wife. When a gang of thugs kills his dog, a final gift from his wife, John returns to the world he left behind. But this is no ordinary world. It is a hidden layer of society, ruled by rituals, laws, and a silent order. Esoteric grief: the dog's death represents the final severance of John's human self. Symbolically, the dog is Anubis, the guardian of the underworld. Its death forces John to journey into his own version of the Duat, Egyptian underworld, where violence is not just revenge, but ritual. His descent mirrors the mythic pattern of Orpheus, Inanna, and Persephone, all of whom journey into shadow realms to reclaim a lost part of themselves. The car as chariot of war, his Mustang is not just a vehicle, it's his war chariot. In many traditions, the chariot represents the ego and direction of the soul. Reclaiming it in Chapter 2 is symbolic of reharnessing his power. Chapter 2. Sacred Codes, Secret Orders, and the Assassin's Creed. The Continental Hotel, Temple of the Hidden Brotherhood. The Continental is no mere hotel. It is a sanctum, a Masonic temple in disguise. Ornate architecture, deep red curtains, mirrors, classical busts, it evokes a place of initiation, not relaxation. Here, assassins follow strict rules: no blood on Continental grounds. These rules mirror real-world secret societies where honor and silence are sacred. Gold coins and sacred exchange: these aren't ordinary currency. The coins have no set value, one coin buys a drink or a corpse disposal. Their worth lies in the system of exchange, the sacred law of reciprocity, echoing the Hermetic principle of exchange. Just as in ancient rites, tokens signify a bond, not a price. The imagery stamped on the coins, an eagle, a lion, a shield, evoke heraldic symbolism used in aristocratic bloodlines and secret orders. The eagle, for example, often represents divine sight and imperial power, while the lion symbolizes royalty, strength, and the guardian of hidden truth. These aren't accidents, they are visual signatures of initiation. Markers and blood oaths, occult contracts. In Chapter 2, John is bound by a marker, a medallion containing a blood oath. This is no ordinary promise. It is a spiritual contract. Blood magic, found in traditions from the Celts to African Vodun, is irreversible. John's denial of the oath threatens the balance of the order. Thus begins the war, not just between men, but between free will and karmic debt. Markers echo ancient ritual pacts, where blood was not only life, but a bridge between the material and spiritual. In Rosicrucian and Gnostic traditions, blood is a transmitter of soul memory. By sealing a vow in blood, one is not only committing their body, but their essence. Visual alchemy. Watch the use of color. Blue and red light dominate Wick's world, symbolizing the duality of life and death, passion and sorrow, masculine and feminine. The entire aesthetic is alchemical. Even the coin-for-service exchange reflects a closed magical system, where services are rendered not for profit, but to uphold cosmic balance. Chapter 3. The High Table and the Invisible Architects. The High Table, the demiurgic authority. The High Table is not a gang. It is a council. 12 seats, representing an unseen 13th power. Like the Council of 13 in conspiracy lore or the Pantheon in mythology, they rule from the shadows. They are lawgivers, judges, and enforcers. Their will is enforced by the adjudicator, an angel of judgment. Each member of the High Table represents a house, a lineage, and a region, implying a global cabal akin to ancient orders like the Bavarian Illuminati or the more modern Bilderberg Group. They do not enforce power directly, but through ritualized proxies. Their existence is closer to the Watchers or the Archons of Gnostic cosmology, beings who uphold order, but are often morally ambiguous. The excommunicado rite, fall from grace. When John is made excommunicado, we witness a metaphysical ritual. He is cut off from the source, like Adam expelled from Eden or Lucifer cast from heaven. It is both exile and initiation. Only through losing everything can he begin the process of rebirth. In esoteric terms, this is the nigredo stage in alchemy, total dissolution. A symbolic death that precedes transformation. The Elder, the hidden one in the desert. In Chapter 3, John seeks the Elder in the Moroccan desert, a mystical figure above the table. This is the archetypal source, the monad, the Godhead. His tent in the endless sands is reminiscent of biblical and Sufi imagery, the seeker wandering the desert to find divine truth. John sacrifices his wedding ring, his last earthly tie, in exchange for survival. This is the spiritual death of the ego. The rite of renunciation. The Elder, in robes and secrecy, represents the inner sanctum, the Akashic keeper, the final oracle. Chapter 4. The Alchemical Hero, John Wick's Transformation. The path of the wounded warrior. John Wick is no longer a man, he is becoming myth. His every step is a trial. Every enemy he faces is a shadow self. His journey mirrors the archetype of the wounded king, the Fisher King, the Christ figure. He wears black, like the alchemical nigredo, the dark night of the soul. He seeks purification through fire, through blood and suffering. But suffering is the fire that forges the soul. Esoteric combat. His battles are not just fights, they are initiations. Each enemy is an aspect of himself. The mirror seen in Chapter 2 reflects self-confrontation. The glass maze symbolizes the illusion of separation. Breaking it is breaking the illusion of duality. Karma and consequences. The films repeat this line, there are consequences. This is not just mob justice, it's karmic law. Every action ripples outward. John is a weapon of fate. But he is also its victim. Chapter 5. The Secret Language of Symbols. Every location, costume, and prop in the John Wick universe is coded. These are not merely cinematic flourishes, they are deliberate occult references. The Red Circle Club, blood, initiation, womb of transformation. The gold coins, talismans of allegiance and exchange. In Gnostic mysticism, coins represent fragments of divine essence. The marker, sacred pact, like a magical sigil. When blood seals it, it becomes a metaphysical contract. The Continental, temple of neutrality and balance. Symbolizes the axis mundi, or world center. The High Table, divine bureaucracy, not unlike the eons of Gnostic tradition. mirrors and glass, self-reflection, illusion, fragmentation of the soul. Staircases and elevation scenes represent Jacob's ladder, spiritual ascension, or descent depending on direction. The Adjudicator's medallion evokes the Seal of Solomon. Even dogs, appearing throughout the series, are not random. In ancient Egypt, dogs were the guardians of the afterlife. John is always accompanied by them, never alone on his journey through death and rebirth. Chapter 6: Cultural Impact and Cinematic Legacy. John Wick reshaped modern action cinema, but not just with its style. It dared to insert esoteric themes into mainstream storytelling. Honor over chaos. Karma over revenge. Initiation over explosion. Sacred contracts over random violence. It brought back ritual. It turned an assassin into a symbolic redeemer. It gave us not just a franchise, but a fable. One where the blood is ink, and every bullet fired is a line of scripture in a sacred text of pain, transformation, and myth.
See you in the next life, brother.
30 paces.
Chapter 7: Apitheosis and the Sacred Duel. The final trial, Chapter 4, is where John becomes more than legend, he becomes myth incarnate. Set against the backdrop of Paris, Osaka, and Berlin, the film is a pilgrimage across symbolic spiritual landscapes. John is no longer just escaping death, he is negotiating with it. The duel, sacred combat ritual, the climactic duel at the Sacred Basilica is not just a showdown. It is a sacred rite. Duelists must stand, fire, and walk toward one another, ritualized in steps of 30 paces, 20 paces, 10. These distances mirror Masonic steps of initiation. The duel follows strict protocol, echoing the sacred duels of ancient honor cultures like bloodshed and European chivalric tradition. The church itself, Sacred, translates to Sacred Heart, a reference to divine sacrifice and martyrdom in Catholic symbolism. This duel is not about killing, it's about redemption through ritualized death. The Harbinger, voice of the cosmic law, are played by Clancy Brown. The Harbinger is the spiritual equivalent of Thoth, the Egyptian scribe of divine law. He carries a book, marks the duel, and ensures the rules are followed. He is the embodiment of universal law, not biased, not emotional, just the record keeper of fate. Winston as Hierophant. Winston's character shifts in Chapter 4. He becomes the Hierophant, the spiritual guide in tarot who reveals sacred truths to the initiate. He organizes the duel not just to protect himself, but to offer John a final path out, not by destruction, but by ceremony. The Arc de Triomphe, the Wheel of Samsara, the iconic car battle around the Arc de Triomphe, is deeply symbolic. The circle represents the Wheel of Samsara, the karmic cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. John must survive the chaos of this wheel to prove his readiness for transcendence. The Osaka Continental, Shrine of the East, in Japan, we see a new iteration of the Continental, steeped in cherry blossoms, katana jewels, and samurai codes. It's the East's interpretation of sacred order. Here, Koji, the hotel manager, embodies the Bushido code, duty to death, loyalty to kin, and honor above survival. The death of Koji's daughter is an echo of generational karma, cycles passed from father to child. The blind seer, Kane as inner sight. Donnie Yen's character, Kane, is blind, but he sees everything. This is the seer archetype, the one who has no outer sight but perfect inner vision. His blindness is a gift, allowing him to act without illusion. In spiritual teachings, those without sensory input often gain heightened awareness of the inner realms. Kane is the perfect foil to John, a reminder that clarity doesn't come from eyes, but from soul. John's sacrifice, death as initiation. At the end of Chapter 4, John dies, or does he? His grave reads, loving husband. Not assassin, not Baba Yaga. This is his true identity, reclaimed. His death is the final alchemical stage, Rubedo, the red phase, symbolic of rebirth and integration. He becomes whole again, not by surviving, but by surrendering. Is John dead? Or did he ascend, leaving behind the identity that once chained him to karma? Chapter 8. Cultural Impact and Cinematic Legacy. John Wick reshaped modern action cinema, but not just with its style. It dared to insert esoteric themes into mainstream storytelling. Honor over chaos. Karma over revenge. Initiation over explosion. Sacred contracts over random violence. Death as transcendence. It brought back ritual. It turned an assassin into a symbolic redeemer. It gave us not just a franchise, but a fable. One where the blood is ink and every bullet fired is a line of scripture in a sacred text of pain, transformation, and myth. In summary, the hidden path of the assassin. John Wick is more than a man. He is myth. His bullets are mantras. His path is spiritual warfare. He is bound by karma, driven by grief, and awakened by betrayal. His world is not ours, but it reflects the hidden architecture of this one. In a world of noise, John Wick walks in silence. In a world of betrayal, he holds the code. And in a world of illusion, he seeks truth. So next time you watch John Wick, don't just see the action. See the symbols. See the soul beneath the surface. If this deep dive unlocked something in you, don't let the fire die. Subscribe to Positive Vortex for more hidden truths, cinematic breakdowns, and esoteric insights. Drop a comment below. What symbol in John Wick struck you the most? Until next time, remember, every myth is a mirror. And every story holds a secret key.